Are Americans going to be worried about their utility bills? The EPA holding hearings across the country today to hear from both sides on that controversial so-called carbon rule. Critics say it will kill coal plants and their electric bills soaring. Cato's Pat Michaels, one of them. Pat, you know, the argument you hear back is that you're way overdoing it, way overstating the pain. It won't be that onerous. You say what?
Well, it's going to be expensive. You know, nobody says that coal is going to be cheap forever. But the worst part, Neil, is the EPA's regulations will have no detectable effect on climate. That's what I said, no detectable effect. And you know how I know that? I'm using the EPA's own model, which is called the Model for the Assessment of Greenhouse Gas-Induced Climate Change. And yes, the acronym is MAGIC.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So using their model, you determined that with all of these, you know, onerous restrictions, and certainly that's how the coal industry looks at it. I've had a number of coal industry CEOs here to say just that. It'd be one thing if you got some bang for the higher price buck here, but you're saying no. Why not?
No, the situation is so absurd, again using the MAGIC model, that if the EPA cut our emissions of carbon dioxide to zero, not one molecule today, and to the year 2100, the amount of warming using their model that would be prevented is 0.2 of a degree Celsius. You can't find that in the data.
And don't you also have to have others going along and doing the same thing if you argue that this is the way to go, and many dispute that it is? And if you don't, that 0.2 of a degree might be the best you can hope for.
Well, it's so odd because, you know, everybody says, well, the other nations of the world will follow along. Yeah, they'll see the United States economy not doing very well. They'll see the poor people in Appalachia and Wyoming, and they're going to say, we're not doing that. You can jump off the cliff, but not us, thank you.
You know, the argument you always hear back on this, Pat, is that, well, this was the same sort of opposition the auto industry ran into with more fuel-efficient cars, and the industry survived and is thriving with a variety of fuel-efficient models that if they had resisted change in the very beginning, we'd still be getting, I don't know, 6-8 miles an hour. That's the argument for this, that we resist change, we resist doing these things, we spring cottage industries as a result when we go ahead and do it. You say that's nonsense.
Well, the fact of the matter, there was a lot of competition in the auto industry because people wanted cars that ran efficiently, that didn't use as much gas. That would have happened no matter what.
It brought on an oil crisis to trigger that demand. They argue that we might have a new energy crisis on our hand that maybe in your case could reverse it, right?
Well, we could have a new energy crisis on our hands. All we have to do is make electricity so expensive that people can't use it. That'll cause one.
We're not all in on this energy thing, are we? We always talk about all in on all choices, but it's actually those that are deemed to be correct, right?
Well, I just wish the people in Washington, in their own self-interest, would look at what policies like this have done politically around the world. The Australian government changed. The Liberal leader lost his job. And by the way, our House of Representatives changed because of cap and trade.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Pat, we'll watch closely. Thank you very, very much.
Yep.
Well, you're sick of dining with all of those kids whining around you. They might even be your own. Then I have just the place for you. But does it go a little too far?